clash between the storied giants of the Caribbean and the spirited Azzurri of Italy. Going into this match, the West Indies were the undisputed heavyweights, seeking to maintain a perfect 100% record heading into the Super 8s. On the other side, Italy, the tournament's newest European darlings, were playing for pride and a dream finish to a maiden World Cup campaign that had already seen them stun the world with a victory over Nepal. Italy won the toss and, showing no fear, elected to bowl first. They backed up that boldness immediately. Within the first 5 overs, the Kolkata crowd was rubbing its eyes in disbelief. Ali Hassan and Thomas Straka struck early, removing the dangerous Brandon King and Shimron Hetmeyer. The Windies were wobbling at 31 for 2, but then came the captain's knock. Shai Hope stepped onto the crease, not just as a batter, but as an anchor. While others struggled for fluency on a tricky Eden Gardens surface, Hope played a sublime innings of 75 off 46 balls. He found a steady partner in Roston Chase, and together they rebuilt the foundations. Italy's spinners, led by Christian Kalugamage, kept the pressure on, eventually bowling Hope in the 16th over. At 115 for 5, Italy sensed a monumental upset. However, a late innings surge from Sherfane Rutherford and Matthew Ford, who smashed 50 runs in the final 5 overs, pushed the West Indies to a competitive 165 for 6. Chasing 166 at Eden Gardens against a West Indies attack is a mountain for any team, let alone a debutante nation. Italy needed a miracle start, but the men in maroon were clinical. Matthew Forde was lethal with the new ball, removing Justin Mosca early. Despite a quick-fire cameo from Anthony Mosca, the Italian top order crumbled under the sheer pace and bounce of the Caribbean attack. By the end of the power play, Italy were 37 for 3, and the required run rate was beginning to look like an alpine peak. JJ Smuts and Ben Menenti showed the grit that has defined Italy's tournament, putting up a brave resistance. Menenti top-scored with 26, but the middle-over squeeze from Gudakesh Moti and the relentless Shamar Joseph was too much to handle. Joseph was the star of the show, finishing with a magnificent 4-wicket haul and taking 4 catches, a rare and dominant all-round fielding and bowling display. In the end, Italy were bowled out for 123 in the 18th over. The West Indies secured a 42-run victory, ensuring they marched into the Super 8s with 4 wins from 4 matches. But let's look past the scorecard. For the West Indies, this was a statement of professional intent. They didn't have it all their own way, but they found a way to win. The hallmark of champions. Shai Hope's leadership and Shamar Joseph's fire have made it clear. The Windies are here to take the trophy home. And what of Italy? They leave this tournament with their heads held high. They restricted a world-class batting lineup to their lowest first innings total of the tournament. They proved that cricket is growing, that the traditional boundaries are fading, and that the Azzurri belong on the world stage. As we look toward the Super 8s, we celebrate the West Indies' dominance, but we also salute the bravery of Italy. They didn't just play a match today. They inspired a new generation of cricketers back in Rome and Milan. Thank you, Kolkata, for a night of brilliant T20 cricket. Good evening to the fans here in Colombo and those watching across the globe. We have just witnessed a night that will be etched into the folklore of Zimbabwean cricket and remembered as one of the great upsets in T20 World Cup history. Tonight, at the R. Premadasa Stadium, the very heart of Sri Lankan cricket, the Chevrons didn't just compete, they conquered. Coming into this match, the equation was simple for Sri Lanka: win at home and secure a dominant path to the Super 8s. For Zimbabwe, it was about proving they belong among the elite. By the end of the night, they didn't just prove they belonged. They finished at the top of Group B, undefeated. Sri Lanka won the toss and chose to bat, looking to set a target that would stifle the Zimbabweans. For a long time, it looked like they were doing exactly that. Pathum Nissanka was the architect of the Lankan innings, playing a superb knock of 62 off 41 balls. He found the gaps with surgical precision. guiding the co-hosts to a half-century in the power play. Despite the middle-order wobbles, Pavan Rathnayake provided the late innings fireworks. His aggressive 44 off just 25 deliveries sent the home crowd into a frenzy, pushing Sri Lanka to a very competitive 178 for 7. However, we must credit the discipline of the Zimbabwean veterans. Graham Cremer was exceptional, using all his experience to finish with 2 for 27, ensuring the target stayed within the realm of possibility. At the break, the target was 179, a mountain to climb against a Sri Lankan attack, featuring the likes of Deekshana and Wellalolage on their home turf. What followed was a masterclass in composed, high-stakes chasing. Zimbabwe's openers, Brian Bennett and Tadiwanashe Marumani, ignored the pressure of the 35,000 screaming fans. They provided a 69-run platform that silenced the stadium and sowed the seeds of doubt in the Lankan camp. Then stepped in the man for the big occasion, Sikandar Raza. The captain didn't just play an innings, he led a charge. Raza's 45 off 26 balls, featuring 4 massive sixes, shifted the momentum decisively. He targeted the spinners, taking the game away from Sri Lanka in the middle overs. When Raza fell in the 19th over, the tension was palpable. Zimbabwe needed 8 runs from the final over. The crowd was on its feet, sensing a miracle comeback for the Lions. But Tony Munyonga released the pressure with a towering 6 off Mahesh Deekshana before Brian Bennett, who remained unbeaten on a magnificent 63, clinched the victory with a boundary. Zimbabwe reached 182 for 4 with 3 balls to spare. As the final ball raced to the boundary, a stunned silence fell over Colombo, broken only by the ecstatic celebrations of the Zimbabwean camp. This match was a reminder of why we love this game. It wasn't just about the skill of Brian Bennett or the fire of Sikandar Raza. It was about the belief that no giant is too big to fall. Zimbabwe has created history tonight, becoming the first Zimbabwean team to score consecutive 50s in a World Cup through Bennett. And more importantly, they head into the Super 8s as the giant killers of Group B. For Sri Lanka, this is a bitter pill to swallow on home soil, but they remain a dangerous force as the tournament moves to India. For Zimbabwe, this is their I was there moment. They have won hearts, they have won respect, and they have topped their group. As Captain Raza said in the post-match presentation, everyone loves an underdog story. Tonight, that story became reality. The chevrons are flying high, and the world is finally taking notice. Thank you. Good evening to the passionate fans here in Chennai. We are gathered at the legendary Chepauk Stadium to reflect on a match of immense pride and poignant farewells. Tonight, under the humid skies of southern India, Afghanistan and Canada met for their final Group D fixture. While the Blue Tigers were already out of the running for the Super 8s, this match was about much more than a tournament bracket. It was about finishing with honor. It was about personal records. And most emotionally, it was the final match for head coach Jonathan Trott, the man who has steered this team through their most transformative years. On the other side, Canada looked to sign off their campaign with a historic scalp. What we saw instead was a masterclass in clinical T20 cricket. Canada won the toss and made the brave decision to bowl first on a sluggish Chennai deck. It was a choice they would quickly come to regret. Ibrahim Zadran walked out with a point to prove. After a quiet start to the tournament, Zadran didn't just find his rhythm, he found his roar. He anchored the innings with a sublime, unbeaten 95 off just 56 balls. It was the highest individual score ever by an Afghan batter in T20 World Cup history. Whether it was the 5 towering sixes that cleared the long-on boundary or the 7 calculated fours, Zadran was in total control. He found a perfect ally in Sedikla Atal, whose brisk 44 helped power a 95-run partnership. Despite Yaskarandeep Singh's brave effort with the ball, Afghanistan finished their 20 overs at a mammoth 200 for 4. It was the first time the Afghan team had ever breached the 200-run mark in a World Cup game, setting the stage for a spectacular defense. Chasing 201 at Chepauk against the world's most feared spin attack is a nightmare scenario for any associate nation. Canada's openers, Dilpreet Bajwa and Yuvraj Samra, actually started with intent, racing to 24 in the first 2 overs. But then, the Blue Tigers tightened the noose. The evening belonged to the man they call the President, Mohammad Nabi. At 41 years young, Nabi proved that class is permanent. In a historic spell, he dismantled the Canadian middle order, finishing with extraordinary figures of 4 wickets for just 7 runs. It was the best bowling performance by any player over the age of 40 in the history of the World Cup. Rashid Khan added 2 of his own, ensuring there was no escape, while Harsh Thakur and Saad bin Zafar showed some late resistance with a 50-run stand. The result was never in doubt. Canada were restricted to 118 for 8, handing Afghanistan a resounding 82-run victory. As the final wickets fell and the Afghan players embraced, there was a sense of what if in the air. This win showed the world exactly why Afghanistan is considered a top-tier threat. They played with a level of professionalism and flair that suggests their exit from the tournament was a mere stumble on a much longer, upward path. The most moving moment of the night came after the match. Ibrahim Zadran, the player of the match, dedicated his performance to coach Jonathan Trott. Under Trott's leadership, this team evolved from giant killers to giants in their own right. This 82-run win was the perfect parting gift for a coach who instilled belief in a nation. For Canada, they leave Chennai winless but wiser. Facing legends like Nabi and Rashid in their prime is an education that money cannot buy. For Afghanistan, they leave with their heads held high, having broken records and hearts in equal measure. Tonight, Chennai saw the Blue Tigers at their absolute best. The tournament loses a spark with their departure, but the memory of Zadran's power and Nabi's magic will linger at Chepauk for a long time to come.